Well, hello, Ohio. Thank you all for coming out today. To my great friend, Ohio Congressman Bill Johnson. Can we hear it for him one more time? What a man of integrity. Thank you, Bill. To Ohio's great Republican state chair, Jane Timken. Where are you, Jane? Take a bow. Good to see you. To Team Trump's leader in the Buckeye State, Bob Paduchek. To all my fellow Americans near and far, including 3 women that I just read about. Teresa Gorman, Patsy LeBons, and Teresa White. They call themselves Suburban Ladies for Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be back in the Buckeye State, but I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that is that Ohio and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. And the road to victory runs right through Ohio. You know, it really is great to be back in Buckeye State. 4 years ago, a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. Here in Ohio, you believe we could be stronger. You believe we could be prosperous again. You said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know Ohio's going to say yes to 4 more years of President Donald Trump in 2020. It's good to be with you all. The President's actually headed out to North Carolina tonight. Tomorrow night he's headed to Nashville, Tennessee, where he's going to take the stage and take the fight straight to Joe Biden, and I can't wait. You know, we had a little debate of our own between the vice presidential candidates a couple of weeks ago in Salt Lake City. Some people think we did all right. But I got to tell you, it was a great privilege for me to be on that stage. Talk about all this president's been able to accomplish. I mean, think about how far we've come. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that had been hollowed out by years of devastating budget cuts. An economy that was struggling to break out of the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Terrorism was on the rise around the world, and we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values. But in 3 short years, under President Trump's leadership, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We secured our border, supported law enforcement, stood for life and liberty and the Constitution of the United States of America. It was 3 years of promises made and promises kept. 3 years of putting America first. And it all starts with our national defense. You know, after years of reckless budget cuts, Joe Biden was vice president. Budget cuts that actually had a portion of the aircraft in our Air Force kept on the ground to be used as spare parts keep other aircraft in the air. I have to tell you, as the proud father of a Marine Corps pilot and the father-in-law of a Navy pilot, I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a president who signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. We are once again giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and the support they need to defend this nation. It's not just been about supporting those who serve in our army and their families. It's been about supporting all of you who did serve. In fact, would all the veterans who are with us here today, if you're able, would you stand or raise your hand and give us one more opportunity to say thank you for your service? Thank you. Thank you for your service. Now, you all remember here in Ohio, the scandals in the VA. We literally had Harris waiting in line to get help from the VA. Under President Donald Trump. President Trump signed the most sweeping reforms of the VA in 50 years. We've fired more than 3,000 VA employees that weren't given our veterans the health care that they earned, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. It's been about providing for the common defense and supporting those who defended this nation. And it's also been about this economy. You know, in our first 3 years after Joe Biden spent the previous 8 years trying to tax and spend and bail our way back to a growing America, President Donald Trump created the greatest economy in American history. True. It's amazing to think that now, in the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. He's actually talking about repealing the Trump tax cuts. That'd be a minimum of a $2,000 tax increase on every working family of 4 in Ohio. President Trump, we cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration in American history. We fought for free and fair trade, unleashed American energy, and in 3 short years, businesses created 7 million good-paying jobs, including 82,000 jobs right here in the Buckeye State. True. I mean, under this president, household incomes grew 4 times as much in our first 3 years than they did in the 8 years that Joe Biden was vice president. And maybe most meaningful of all to the president and me is that wages rose at their fastest pace in 10 years, and they rose most rapidly for hardworking, blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America were forgotten no more. And when it comes to trade, when we took office, Communist China was literally half of our international trade deficit. We were losing $500 billion a year to China alone. Now, Joe Biden, he's been a cheerleader for Communist China every step of the way. He said the rise of China was a positive development. And last year, he was dismissing that China was even a competitor. And closer to home, when we saw factories shuttered here across the heartland in the years following NAFTA. Democrats like to complain a lot about NAFTA, but Joe Biden never lifted a finger to reform NAFTA when literally thousands of factories closed and jobs went south of the border and overseas. But under President Donald Trump, NAFTA is yesterday and the USMCA is here to stay. And it's a win for Ohio. It's a win for auto workers and farmers in the Buckeye State. And it's a win for America. And when it comes to China, President Trump made it clear from day one. He told China the era of economic surrender is over. We imposed tariffs on China. We told them this tariffs will stand firm until you open your markets and treat American farmers and American workers fairly. So it's about taxes and regulations. It's about trade. It's also about energy. When it comes to energy, you all deserve to know in the Buckeye State. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the radical left want to crush American energy under a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal. Now, in the last presidential debate, the president had to remind Joe Biden that he supported the Green New Deal. Maybe he forgot. But if you go to his website, USA Today said it's pretty much exactly the same as AOC's Green New Deal. It had raised the cost of electricity in every home and every business in Ohio. President Trump, he's been a champion for American energy independence. We ended the war on coal. We unleashed American energy, and today America is a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. Incredible. You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, America actually lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. You remember those days. And the last president 4 years ago said those jobs were never coming back. Remember that? You know, I like to say, I'm from just next door in Indiana. I like to say out this way, we do two things well. We make things and we grow things. And yet you had a president, you had a vice president for the previous 8 years that basically said manufacturing was a fading part of America's past. The last president actually said, remember, he said those jobs weren't coming back. He said, quote, "What magic wand do you have?" Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs created in just 3 years, including 13,000 jobs right here in the great state of Ohio. Back on energy, you all deserve to know. No matter what they're saying now, over the last year, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have made it clear. They want to abolish fossil fuels and end fracking. And that would literally cost hundreds of thousands of jobs in the state of Ohio. I mean, it's incredible when you look at their men and women of Ohio. No matter what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are saying right now, you can take it to the bank. Joe Biden and the radical left are planning to advance their own environmental agenda to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, but we're not going to let it happen. We're going to have more fracking, more American energy, more energy independence for generations to come. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. It's on trade, it's on energy, it's on taxes and regulation, but on health care, a lot of talk about health care these days, right? I think the people of Ohio remember Obamacare. Remember the 3 big lies of Obamacare? Bill and I remember it. I was serving in Congress back in the day. They said, if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Not true. They said, if you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. They said health insurance premiums would go down. Actually, when we came into the White House, health insurance premiums had actually doubled. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually have a plan that would borrow the socialized medicine from Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All, call it a public option, and put it right in the middle of Obamacare. It set us on an inevitable path of collapse into socialized medicine. But under President Donald Trump, we've been fighting to lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. We lowered the cost of prescription drugs. We passed right to try for families in America. We got rid of the individual mandate. We're going to have the greatest health care the world has ever known, and America will never be a socialist country. We're going to have health care built on free enterprise, freedom, and free markets. That's the American way. People of Ohio, we have a choice to make. I think it really is a choice between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. It's true. I mean, a nonpartisan study came out just yesterday that said that Joe Biden's economic policies, America would lose 5 million jobs. And the average household income of an American family would drop by $6,500 a year. So you got to ask yourself, and you got to ask your family members and your coworkers and your neighbors and friends in the next 13 days. Who do you really think can bring this economy all the way back? A career politician who spent 47 years in Washington, D.C., raising taxes, passing regulations, doing economic surrender on the world stage, or a proven job creator that will cut taxes, roll back red tape, and fight for American jobs, American workers every day, for our families, for our jobs, for an American comeback. We need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. So it's been about security. It's been about prosperity. Fought for American energy and American workers. But every step of the way, President Donald Trump has also stood strong for the rule of law. As we stand here today, I'm proud to report to you that our president has actually seen confirmed more than 230 conservative judges to our federal courts at every level. And they are all men and women who will uphold the God-given liberties in our Constitution, like the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Now, I'll tell you, we'll always defend the freedom of speech and a free and independent press. But at a time when big tech is actually trying to censor what Americans read and see and say on the internet, I'm glad to report to you yesterday the Justice Department launched an antitrust suit against Google. While big tech is trying to protect Joe Biden, President Trump and I are going to protect freedom. We're not going to let big tech block the truth, not now, not ever. We're on to it. You know, last month we rightly paused as a nation. Honor the life and service of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But when the memorials were over, President Trump fulfilled his duty under the Constitution. And he nominated an incredible, brilliant, principled, conservative woman to the Supreme Court of the United States, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. The President and I made it clear from the beginning. We called on the Democrats in Washington this time to give our nominee a respectful and dignified confirmation. But we had reason to be concerned. You all remember when she went through her confirmation 2 years ago to the Court of Appeals, the leading Democrat on the Judiciary Committee actually criticized Judge Barrett for her Catholic faith. She said it was of a concern because that Democrat senator said, quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And Hollywood elites have already started to criticize Judge Barrett's faith and her values. Well, I got news for the Democrats and their friends in Hollywood. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live, to work, to worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. So the Senate's got a job to do. They got to vote this week, and they got to vote early next week. But after they advise and consent, I'll make your prediction. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is going to be Justice Amy Coney Barrett. We're going to fill that seat. Three justices on the Supreme Court, 230 conservative judges. Standing here just across the mighty Ohio River from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I just got to tell y'all, none of that would have been possible without the strong and principled leadership of Senator Mitch McConnell. So right after you vote to re-elect President Donald Trump, we need to re-elect Senator Mitch McConnell to a renewed Republican majority in the United States Senate. Now, speaking of the Supreme Court, people of Ohio deserve to know, after 150 years with 9 justices on the Supreme Court, leading Democrats in Washington are talking about packing the court with activist liberal judges who will legislate their agenda from the bench. I mean, last Thursday night during that town hall, those weren't softballs they were throwing at Joe Biden. Those were beach balls. While on the other network, President Trump is taking fastballs straight at him, and he's hitting every one of them out of the park. Am I right? I'm right. Anyway, on that town hall the other night, Joe Biden actually said, he said, quote, "I'm open to considering packing the court with liberal judges." In fact, Kamala Harris said during the primaries that she was, quote, "absolutely open to packing the court, adding seats, adding activist liberal judges that will legislate their agenda from the bench," even though she wouldn't answer the question when I posed it to her in our debate. Now, Joe Biden also said that he's going to tell the American people what he'll do after Judge Barrett is confirmed next week, even though millions of Americans are voting as we speak. Come on, man. The American people deserve a straight answer, Joe. When you're running for the highest office in the land, you ought to tell the American people if you're going to respect the highest court in the land. Look, I mean, we all know what's going on here. You know, I was born in the morning, but not yesterday morning. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to pack the court with activist liberal judges if they win this election. But we're not going to let it happen. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump and re-elect a Republican majority in the Senate. We're going to have an independent judiciary and the rule of law. So we stood strong. We stood strong every step of the way for all the principles enshrined in our Constitution and for that rule of law. And I think you all know here in Ohio, President Donald Trump has stood every day without apology for the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement. The men and women who serve in law enforcement are some of the best people in this country, and they deserve the respect of every American every day. You know, President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. It's enshrined in our Constitution. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. I was in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago with a wonderful African-American woman, Flora Westbrook. She started a salon in downtown Minneapolis 35 years ago. Built it up to become one of the centers of the community. She told me of that fateful night, just a few days after the killing of George Floyd, when she saw the violent protesters come closer and closer and closer to her business until they burned her to the ground. Now, for months, all Joe Biden talked about was peaceful protesters, remember? While people like Flora Westbrook literally looked into the ashes of her dreams. The American people watch businesses and cities around this country burn. You know, the truth is Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that have led to violence in our cities. When you start to withdraw support for those who protect and serve, you only embolden those who would do harm to our families and our communities. It breaks my heart to say that Cincinnati, as we speak, is on track to have a record number of homicides this year. Now, Joe Biden explains his position by saying that America is, quote, systemically racist. And he and Kamala Harris say that police have a, quote, implicit bias against minorities. When asked if he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. And Kamala Harris recently praised the mayor of Los Angeles for cutting $150 million out of the budget of the LAPD. Well, let me make you a promise. Under President Donald Trump, we're not going to defund the police. Not now, not ever. We're going to back the blue for 4 more years. You know, you and I know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and supporting our African-American neighbors and friends. I mean, honestly, for our first 3.5 years, we've done both every day. This president supported funding for more than 4,000 additional police officers through the COPS program. When violence broke out in streets around the country, he launched Operation Legend named after a 4-year-old boy who was literally killed in his own bed in urban violence. And we've already arrested more than 3,000 violent perpetrators working with local law enforcement. And all along the way, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who saw the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, the highest funding in history for historically black colleges and universities, 8,000 opportunity zones, investing jobs in our major cities, and educational choice we fought for every family in every city in America. Men and women, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and supporting our African American neighbors and friends or minorities or anyone who lives in our cities. We have done both, and we'll keep doing both for 4 more years. And we're going to have law and order and prosperity in every city in this country for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. So we stood for the rule of law, for our Constitution, and for law and order. President Donald Trump has stood every day for the religious freedom of every American of every faith. When Joe Biden was vice president, we literally saw a steady assault on the religious freedom of Americans. I mean, remember? There was a group of nuns who took a lifetime vow of poverty to serve the most vulnerable among us. When Joe Biden was vice president, they hauled the Little Sisters of the Poor into federal court to force them to compromise aspects of their faith to live under the mandates of Obamacare. President Donald Trump, we restored the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, teachers, and charities. And President Donald Trump ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Supreme Court made it permanent. People of faith have no greater champion than President Donald Trump. And as we talk about our values and our most cherished ideals, I have to tell you, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. In Ohio, our neighbors deserve to know Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. President Trump, he reinstated the Mexico City policy that prevents taxpayer dollars from being used to promote abortion anywhere in the world, and he signed a bill that allowed states like Ohio to defund Planned Parenthood. President Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in American history. It's amazing to think what we all accomplished in those first 3 years. We rebuilt our military, revived our economy, stood for law and order, our liberties and life. And that's why, right after you vote to re-elect President Donald Trump, we need Ohio to send Bill Johnson, Steve Chabot, Brad Wenstrom back to a new Republican majority in the United States House and retire Nancy Pelosi once and for all. And when you look at what we were able to accomplish in those first 2 years with the Republican House and the Republican Senate, the first 3 years in office with that foundation, only one way you can describe it. We made America great again. We did. And then 2020 came, and the coronavirus struck from China. And I'm here to tell you, before the first documented case of community transmission in the United States, President Trump did what no American president had ever done. He suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. I was there. I mean, literally, in the month of January, there were 5 cases of coronavirus in the United States. All of them had people who had come back from China. And President Trump listened to our scientists, listened to our team, and he made that decision on the spot in the Oval Office. Now Joe Biden called it xenophobic. He said it was hysterical. He actually wrote a couple days before that any ban on travel from anywhere would, quote, make things worse. But let me tell you something. As the head of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, I can tell you firsthand, President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China saved untold American lives, and it bought us time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. It did. We reinvented testing. We saw to the production and the creation of literally billions of supplies that we continue to surge all across the country. We developed medicines that are literally saving lives as we speak. And we are just a short time away from having the first safe and effective coronavirus vaccine before the end of this year with millions of doses for the American people. That's what leadership looks like. That's the leadership of President Donald Trump. Now, I must tell you, anyone here and anyone looking on that's had a loved one lost in the midst of this global pandemic, you've always been in our hearts. You remain in our prayers. And I promise each and every one of you, we're going to continue to work our hearts out every day. That our doctors and nurses and every American family have the resources to support the supplies and the medicines to get the level of health care that any one of us would want a member of our family to have. We're going to keep working to slow the spread, protecting the vulnerable, and saving lives. But as Joe Biden, we're going to hold China accountable. Where Joe Biden's talking about shutting down the economy again, we are opening up America again. It's amazing. I mean, after we lost 22 million jobs. America again, and we are opening up America's schools. I'm proud to report to you that we're working around the clock to surge resources, supplies, testing, and materials. We just deployed over 100 million tests to school nurses and administrators to get our kids back in the classroom and keep them back in the classroom where they belong, safe and sound. And I'm proud to report to you that our second lady, Mrs. Pence, is already back in the classroom in a little Christian school just outside Washington, D.C. I got to give a shout out to a woman I read about on the plane on the way here. Lou Petrie from Anderson. She is here waving a sign for Teachers for Trump. Thank you, Lou. Let's hear it for all of our teachers. Let's hear it for all the great teachers across Ohio that have helped our kids through this time. So we're opening up Ohio and America. We're opening up our schools, Lou. We really are. And thanks for your great service. We're making great progress. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge progress Ohio has made through these challenging times. It's a tribute to your president. It's a tribute to the compassion and care of the people of this state, to our doctors and nurses. And I want to take this opportunity, yes, please, doctors and nurses, first responders and healthcare workers. They are heroes all. But I also want to express my appreciation for the strong, steady, compassionate leadership of Governor Mike DeWine. So men and women, we've been through a time of testing, but we're soon coming to a time for choosing. 13 days from now. The choice in this election has never been clearer. The stakes have never been higher. I mean, when you look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris' agenda, higher taxes, open borders, socialized medicine, a Green New Deal, defunding the police, packing the courts, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. Now Joe Biden says that democracy is on the ballot. Well, I think our economic recovery is on the ballot. I think law and order are on the ballot. But I also think there's things much more fundamental and foundational to our country that are on the ballot as well. You know, in this election, I don't think it's going to be whether America ends up more Republican or more Democratic, more conservative or more liberal, more red or more blue. I think the choice in this election is whether America remains America. I do. Whether we're going to chart a course based on all the timeless ideals and liberties enshrined in our founding documents. Chart a course based on freedom, individual responsibility, patriotism, or whether we're going to let Joe Biden and Kamala Harris steer us down the path of American decline. So let me say from my heart, for our freedom and all the ideals that have always made America great, we need to decide right here and right now that Joe Biden will never be president of the United States. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Because as the president has said, we got work to do. Over the next 4 years, we're going to distribute the vaccine and defeat the China virus. We're going to maintain America's unrivaled military might and ensure peace through American strength. We're going to make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world and end our reliance on China once and for all. We'll uphold religious liberty, freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms. We're going to hire more police. We're going to ban sanctuary cities. And we're going to stop the indoctrination of our kids and restore patriotic education to our schools. As President Trump said at Mount Rushmore, we're going to teach our children to love our country, honor our history, respect our great American flag, and we will live by those timeless words of our national motto, "In God we trust." So I want to thank you all for coming out today. I really am very humbled by this incredible time. You know, it's the greatest honor of my life to be your vice president. And I want to thank the people of Ohio for the honor you've given me and my family. You know, the president and I we didn't know each other very well before he came by when I was governor of Indiana next door. We first got acquainted 4 years ago. I mean, some people think we're a little bit different. But I got to tell you, we've become very close friends. And I've served shoulder to shoulder with him over these last 4 years, and I can tell you firsthand, against unrelenting attacks by the Democrat opposition and their allies in the mainstream press, there's never been a day gone by that President Trump hasn't gotten up and fought to keep the promises that he made to the people of Ohio. Now it's our turn to fight for him. It's on, Ohio. So I got a couple things I got to ask you to do in the next 13 days. Okay? First and foremost, I need you to vote, Ohio. Vote to re-elect President Donald Trump to the White House. I know early voting has already started. If you haven't cast your vote yet, tomorrow you could just head down the road about 15 minutes from here at Hamilton County Board of Elections, 4700 Smith Road. Open 8 to 6. And vote. And remember, friends don't let friends vote alone. Bring a family member, bring a co-worker, bring a neighbor, and vote to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. And after you vote with a friend, I want you to spend the whole rest of the time talking to your neighbors and friends at worship and at work. I want you to tell them all that we've accomplished as a nation. How this president rebuilt our military, revived our economy, reaffirmed our commitment to our highest ideals by appointing principled men and women to our courts, stood by those in law enforcement every day, and how this president has seen us through the worst global pandemic in 100 years. And tell them about the choice that we face. And I truly do believe in 2016, I'll never forget that election night. We were standing at the campaign headquarters. True story. We were standing at the campaign headquarters. I'm here, my wife Karen, our kids. The president's standing right next to me. Melania and all the Trump family are there. And we're watching all these screens at the campaign headquarters in New York. And I got to tell you, when the early states came in, he would pop me on the shoulder. He'd go, bang, look, South Carolina's in. And I said, yeah. He said, bang, Georgia's in. Good, right. But I'm telling you what, when Ohio came through, I thought he was going to knock me down. Because the people of Ohio were talking to each other. Ohio knew we could be great again. And we need you to do it again. I'm telling you. And finally, after you vote with a friend, after you go tell somebody, worship it at work, put it on your social media, pick up the phone and call somebody, text, tweet, however you want to do it. Just say, I was at the airport the other day, I ran into Mike, and he talked for an hour just about everything we've done about the choice in this election. And finally, maybe ask you to do one more thing. All my travels across this country over the last 4 years, I'm more convinced than ever of two things about the people of this country. And that is that America is a freedom-loving nation. And America is a nation of faith. At the end of that vice presidential debate, they had a little question from a school-age girl. She said she was watching television. It seemed like there was more that divided us in this country than united us. But I'll always be convinced that there will always be more that unites us in these United States of America than could ever divide us. And chief among those things is faith. So let me say to each and every one of you, in these challenging times, in this time of decision for our nation, if you're inclined to bow the head and bend the knee the next 13 days, I encourage you to do that too. But when you pray, pray with confidence. In those ancient words that Americans have clung to in times more challenging than we could possibly imagine in our time. That if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray and turn, that he'll do like he's always done in the long and storied history of this great state and this nation. He'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal this land. This one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So pray for America. Pray for all of the American people. Because with God, all things are possible. And I just know that if all of us do all we need to do over the next 13 days, all across the great Buckeye State, we're going to have a great victory for the American people and a great victory for freedom. And I truly do believe that with Bill Johnson, Steve Chabot, in a new Republican majority in the United States Congress, for you people from Kentucky, with Senator Mitch McConnell in a renewed Republican majority in the Senate, with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Ohio. God bless you. God bless America. Now let's go get it done.